My eyes are also on Spencer Jones, who is officially a Denver Nugget this year. As the news came in yesterday that the Nuggets, this was not, I told people on the show over and over again, people were concerned that we're going to lose him this year. I don't think that was ever in risk. The only question was, could you get him on a multi-year deal? That would be great for Denver. You lock up a minimum contract for years to come, who's a playable player. And they weren't able to get that done. You know, Spencer Jones, I think, is eager to test his own free agency. It's going to be restricted free agency, but test his own free agency and just see maybe there is a little bit more money. Can you drive that price up a little bit? I think Denver obviously wanted to get something done, but Denver didn't have, at this stage, they didn't have any maneuverability other than going into the tax. And I don't think the Cronkies looked at this as a scenario that was, we're going to go into the tax and maybe put ourselves behind the 8 ball in future years just to give him an extra $1 million a year. I believe the team is looking at this and saying, let's see what happens. We value him a lot. We look at the market and we'll see. And they still have matching rights into the summer. So if he ends up getting an extra $1 million, $2, $3 million, Denver might have to bite the bullet and pay at that point. But I think Denver's approach to this is, why prepay where you're guaranteed to?
Why would we ever do that? You know, like,
well, because I think Denver still controls his rights, is my point. It's not like
I was kind of being a little.
If they're looking at this and saying going over the tax is going to hurt us, you know, at least how they view it, it's going to hurt us and limit us in the future, then why don't we not flinch? Let's go to the summer and let's see if he can actually get more money in free agency. And I actually think it's a decent gamble in terms of, I'm not so sure that he is going to get meaningfully more elsewhere. And I think Denver will be able to match him in the offseason.
Yes, and he will be a restricted free agent, most likely, presumably. Of course, the Nuggets would have to offer a qualifying offer. There is one small catch here. It will probably work out in Denver's favor, but worth going over. There is a starters criteria qualifying offer. I believe it's 41 games started on the season, means that your qualifying offer bumps all the way up to $5.9 million, which is probably more than Denver would like to offer Spencer Jones, just as far as the QO goes. So what does that really mean? Well, you'll notice that Spencer Jones is not in the starting lineup tonight. I wouldn't expect to see him in a ton of starting lineups. In fact, I would say no more than 6 from here until the end of the season.
That's probably the number.
So that the Nuggets can tender that cheaper qualifying offer.
What's interesting about this one to me is, so a couple things. First of all, I know everybody's, well, it's fair if you want to like freak out and, oh, did they drop the ball because now they didn't lock him up for multi-years? Let's just see how it plays out. It's entirely possible that this is not an issue, a non-story at all, and Denver just gets him back and they have him for this year. He's now good to go, and he'll play for the Nuggets for the rest of the season, into the playoffs, everything else. But that part of it is what's interesting to me, because I think Denver has been very earnest with him. He's started, he's played a lot of minutes. It's like he's been given any opportunity a two-way player could possibly ask for. But the Nuggets, in doing so, like, I don't even know if this was on their radar 20 games ago about like, oh my God, are we ever going to get close to this 41 game limit? But now you're at a point where you could totally foresee a scenario where, well, should we start Spencer or should we start Zeke? And does it make that much of a difference? Probably not. We're going to start Zeke. And if you're Spencer, you're looking at that going, hold on. You know, it's one of those things where Denver reasonably should protect their own interest in this case. And if you're Spencer, do you get a little upset if that happens for one game? Denver wins by 10, doesn't actually make an impact, but it could just be a thing that creates a weird situation for David Adelman to have to navigate.
And that's why I say I think this is a small L for Denver, not getting a multi-year deal done with him. But looking ahead to this summer, I don't think Spencer Jones is going to be the type of guy that teams are splurging over in restricted free agency, especially in this CBA environment. You know, if he gets more than a minimum, like he might, I wouldn't be surprised if he's back on a minimum though.
I agree.
So,
and I think that's probably a big part of Denver's gamble is test the market, but
totally.
You don't dribble. You're a super low usage guy.
Yeah.
You know, you work in our system, you're going to hit corner threes and you're going to defend, but our team's really going to pay for that, especially in restricted free agency where you can tie yourself up. Are you going to tie yourself up for a guy to give him $4 million instead of $3 million?
Totally. And so,
you know,
there is definitely a scenario out here now where the Nuggets can still thread this needle exactly.
Yeah.
Everything goes according to plan, stay under the luxury tax, still have this open roster spot that they can sign a buyout guy.
And I'm predicting that's the world we're living in, by the way. I'm saying I think that's the likeliest outcome.
And then you get him this summer on, you know, around what you were trying to get him on at this trade deadline. I just say it was a little bit of an L because I think you probably could have signed him to something, you know, a couple months ago.
Yeah. Oh, this is the L. I agree.
But Denver had this whole plan of we're going to keep this roster spot open, duck the tax, all this. So this is what kind of the Nuggets envisioned. And, you know, maybe they even thought we might have some negotiation here that we'd have to navigate and it could go into the summer. But I'm with you. I think it will probably work out. I just don't think it's going exactly how the Nuggets wanted it to.
I also think Spencer Jones wants to be here and has enjoyed his time. I think the relationship with him in Denver is very good. I wouldn't be surprised if there were teams offering him, you know, deals like that he'd just look to Denver and say, okay, nobody came to me with a big offer. You know, we're all in the same ballpark. I'd rather be in Denver if all things are the same. So I think that this is all like in a healthy place.
And there is a business, you know, equation that goes in here. But if you're a two-way guy and you get that first opportunity with the Nuggets and they've given you, you know, all the rope you could ask for, that holds some weight too in, you know, negotiations.
And of course, if it doesn't work out this way, we'll talk about it and it will be a huge L. It'll go from a small L to a big one. And so I just think it's, you know, that's the scenario we find ourselves in. And I'll also say, because part of me wonders, like, did David Adelman not see this? Or nobody predicted Denver would have as many injuries as they've had, that Spencer Jones would actually start as many games as he's had. That's a very abnormal circumstance.
Then on top of that, you just have to think, like, Spencer Jones he's bright. He understood what it was at that time. It was probably too late for both sides that he's like, no, we're going to wait this one out. I'm sure, looked at this and said, no, I'm going to wait to the end of the year and take a chance on myself. So he still has, you know, things coming. He also just got a raise. So, you know, while it looks like an L, it worked out for one guy, and it might work out even longer for both sides.
100%, man. Also, the Nuggets signed to a two-way. They replaced the two-way, and they get KJ Simpson.
Scope.
And I actually think this is a big deal. This kind of signals something. Because KJ Simpson is a guy, one, local guy, played at CU, so he, you know, I think wanted to be
Great
here.
Player at CU.
Had contributed for Charlotte and is like a good player. He's not at all an upside pick. Denver, he is a guy to me that I think serves a very important function. I think KJ Simpson will play minutes for the Denver Nuggets this year in the regular season. And I think that was the entire point of signing him. In fact, I can say this with confidence, that they want what he can provide: on-ball defense, guard defense. You know, Denver doesn't really have, outside of maybe Bruce Brown, they don't really have a guy you can put on and say full court press the ball handler. Get into the ball. Just wear down whoever it is that we're going up against, De'Aaron Fox. And KJ Simpson in the regular season represents that. And on offense, he's not a zero. He can like knock down a shot. He actually was an offensive player in college. But in the NBA, he's just not a liability. So it's one of those guys where I think Denver actually checked a box that they're like, yes, this is a thing that we might actually need to go to or even just want to go to at some point in the season.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think in that two-way spot, they were absolutely looking for a guy that can give them minutes right now. They weren't looking for a project necessarily. KJ Simpson, the guy who's played a lot of minutes for the Hornets, I'm not that high on him, even though I'm a CU guy. I'm not that high on him as like a long-term play for the Nuggets. I think he could be on the team next season, though.
Could.
You know, it may be a two-way spot. I don't know. Yeah. But what he does give you is energy. Yeah. KJ Simpson plays very hard. That's the first thing anybody says about him. Like you said, he can get up and press the ball handler 94 feet. He's going to go 100 miles an hour every single minute that he's out there. He just plays with energy. He plays with a great spirit. And I feel like that was something important to get. And just a guy that can contribute something in that two-way spot. It is a little weird they have now three guards in their
well, one of them's hurt. One of them's hurt, though.
I know.
And one of them, Curtis Jones, is not like a guy that can help you win games at this point in the season.
Right. He's the project.
Yeah.
So I think it is a little bit of mix of the Jones. I think it's a mixture of both. But you have a guy that can play right now, two-way options. He can light it up, and we've also seen him light up the Nuggets. You know, before.
He had his season high against the Nuggets this season.
So like he has those moments that he can, you know, create a spark, and that's what you need out of a two-way guy. You're not using this as a guy that's going to impact the season or change anything around, but you can put him in at various times. I think it's funny to see that they just really love like the undersized guard. Like that's something that they are like stuck on right now.
I think Denver honestly looks at this as we got to win as many games as we can in this last 27. And there is a world where you have a Bruce Brown out or somebody out, and it's like, you know what? Who do we go to? Let's go to this guy. He can play the defensive role. He can play the Bruce Brown role for us. And tonight you're playing 8 minutes, and we just trust you to be a veteran,
this
smart
isn't
player.
a guy who's never played in the NBA before.
Right.
Doesn't really know what's going on. He can handle himself the second he's out there.
So I think that one's kind of interesting. And then KJ Simpson kind of has his pick here of where he wanted to go and, chose Denver. So there's a relationship there between him and John Wallace, I know.
Well,
and
the Nuggets they scouted him a lot in college.
And then,
right up the road in Boulder. They watched a lot of his college games.
And I think more equally as importantly, John Wallace in Minnesota was scouting him as well and had a relationship from that, and they just kind of kept in touch. So he chose Denver. I think he sees an opportunity, and if you get minutes to play, that's a big deal. And then lastly, they still have a 15th roster spot.
Yep.
Here is what my intel tells me about what I would expect them to do. I think the Nuggets will almost certainly treat it the way they treated KJ Simpson. They want to get a player that has value to them this season. I think they look at that as a playable piece. I think they look at the playoffs and say, we just need as many options as possible for a playoff series. And it's likely not going to be a high impact guy. Russell Westbrook is loud, changes your whole dynamic. But I think they want to go for a guy that they say, if we get into a series and we just need a guy that can give us 6 minutes and does something, we'll just do that. And what I think that will be is a forward with defensive versatility, first and foremost, who's not a zero in offense, and almost certainly a veteran player. Not a 3-year vet, not a 2-year vet, a guy that's been in the league for 10,000 minutes. And so some names that fit that bill, Slow-Mo we've talked about, Middleton we've talked about, I think Amir Coffey is another guy. Because if you think about it, there's 27 games left. I think if they sign a guy, it'll be a week or two from now because guys will get bought out still. There's still more buyout guys. And I think it'll be like, okay, you're joining the team. There's 20 games to go. There's no time for you to learn anything. You need a veteran who can come in and doesn't need a month to figure out a system. It's somebody that's played enough basketball to know, okay, I see what we do here. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, if Chris Middleton does become available, does indeed become a buyout candidate, that would be a dream scenario. And maybe you're kind of hoping that while other teams snatched up the initial wave of buyout guys, you're kind of waiting on Middleton to become available, and there's room to kind of sneak in there as his top choice. So obviously, you could help him try to win another ring. So I think that would be my top option. Of course, it feels a little pipe dreamy. First of all, he's not available yet, but that would be great.
That has to be soon, though, right? Because the longer that it happens, I think that helps Denver's chances, just because he's going to be able to choose wherever he wants to go. You will choose a contender at that point that's going to have that option. That goes availability there. So I do think that there's a waiting period that I will want to try to get them in the league there.
My expectation is within a week or two. Maybe it's 3, but I think it'll be within a week or two. And I think what's interesting about this is I'm sure a team can have a big board of like, who would we want? But the truth is, a guy might get bought out. Your third option might get bought out before your first. And there might just be all right, we got to pull the trigger because this guy is acceptable and we don't know what will happen behind that, but this is what we're looking for. Boom, pull the trigger. So I expect Denver to fill that spot. And I think part of the negotiations with Spencer Jones had to do with them having the flexibility to add a guy, because I truly believe Denver is all in on this season. They look around, they say, we have guys, we just want to have, 15 playable guys. And maybe
15 real guys.
15 Pickett, Strother, who knows? But it's just like we have guys that check a bunch of boxes and we can throw a combo together. So that's what I expect to happen for the Nuggets. A veteran guy.
I think so too. You look at some of the guys that are still out there, like Lonzo Ball. I think it's pretty obvious why he hasn't signed with anybody. His medical just must be awful.
I hear it's really bad, man.
or else he would have signed with somebody already. It seemed like he was about to sign with the Warriors and then didn't.
By the way, we also told you the intel on Hayward Highsmith obviously going to Phoenix. We told you that one of the intel that I had on him was that he was like a month away, and the report came out today that he's a long way away. And I think for Denver that was a bit of a factor.
And for Phoenix, it's not as much of a factor because you don't have as high expectations for this season, and you're getting him on board for next season.
100%, exactly.
So we'll see.